Hey everyone, welcome back to the allotment. It's the 1st of August and we have lots of crops that are doing really well, so I thought we could have a little look around and I could go over what we've got growing and you can just enjoy the sunshine with me. So this first crop here is a plant called Perpetual Spinach or Spinach Beet. Slightly different from sort of normal spinach, but tastes very similar. Got that sort of iron taste. You can eat it raw, but I prefer to have it cooked. There's many ways to cook it. You can look up different recipes. But yeah, I've got 6 sort of little clumps of plants growing here. I think there's a few plants per sort of area, and yeah, they've been growing for about a month and we've had a couple pickings from them and they seem to be doing really well. They do get a little bit munched by caterpillars if you don't protect them, but I don't really go to the effort of that. Then we've got leeks. These are summer leeks, and for some reason this year they've flowered or they've gone to seed. So this is the seed head here and it will be full of seeds in a month or so. But there's still some edible leek there. You just have to take out the middle portion of the leek because the flower stem kind of germinates from the middle of the leek, ruining the middle. And we have got a few leeks here. This is a leek that hasn't flowered and you can see it's getting a bit thicker down there. So that one, now it hasn't flowered, it should continue growing all the way into the autumn and hopefully through till next spring. So we have these plants here which look very similar to the spinach beet, but they are actually Swiss chard. So again, you can eat it raw, but I prefer to have it cooked. That little pink veined plant down there is a Scarlet Kale, so just a young plant, only been in here a few weeks, but it will hopefully grow and produce lots of lovely kale throughout the winter. Then we have a row of what looks like rocket, but it's actually Mizuna, which is a mild salad leaf, and yeah, it grows really well here. You just have to keep it watered, otherwise it will go to seed. We have a couple of pots of strawberries and a small strawberry patch which is doing really well at the moment. Let's see if we can find a strawberry. That one's ripe, so I'll pick that one. Very nice. And I'll eat that one later once I finish filming. These are my fruit bushes. So we have raspberries and red currants and black currants, and then another row of raspberries because I really like raspberries. This bed had potatoes in it but now has a second sowing of autumn and winter crops. So we've got carrots and leeks and parsnips, Brussels sprouts, cabbages, cauliflower, beetroot. So I'll have to make another video in a few weeks' time to show how the seeds are germinated, because I only planted the seeds a couple of days ago. And then up at the top of the allotment we have the beans. So these are French beans and runner beans. So they are growing really well. I've probably harvested 8 pounds of runner beans today, and I probably could do the same, 8 pounds of French beans today. I could probably do the same with the runner beans this afternoon if I can be bothered. I've kind of eaten enough runner beans to last me a lifetime in the last few weeks, so I'm not massively bothered about eating more today. We have the compost. This is the compost heap that I've been using so far. I've filled it up to the top about 3 times, and it's just all sank down to, so far it's filling about half. So yeah, we're composting everything that we take off the allotment, including weeds and things, and then next to it is the compost which I'll be using for this autumn spreading on the vegetable patches, which is a ton of cow manure which I've been rotting down all year. So that one should be a nice fertile compost for the allotment. I would like to do an inspection with you guys, but I haven't done an inspection on camera, and I'm not sure how I'd get on doing it with one hand. These sunflowers have done really well this year. I've had to tie them back up against the fence. But I would say the tallest one has a stem that is probably 40 mil, possibly 45 mil, and then it is, I would say, 7 foot tall maybe, which is pretty good considering they're growing in a 6-inch strip of soil on the edge of my bee yard. We have rhubarb here, which was a transplanted root that I put in there in the spring after we built the polytunnel, and that one's survived and seems to be growing really well. We have an outdoor tomato and horseradish. We have some young artichoke plants there, which are just growing. I cut the globes off because I didn't want them to put too much energy into flowering this year. A little tub with some flowers in it. More sunflowers. The bumblebees seem to really like the sunflowers. I think that the honeybees do as well, but yeah. This one's great. It's a sweet pea, and it's growing up the stalks of the sunflowers, so it's using them as natural sort of canes. This one here is the verbena, and the bees love it. But you've got to be careful because it does self-seed and spread everywhere. This is the polytunnel, and it has been so hot in here this year. Obviously it's its first year, so not that makes it hotter, but it's been up to about 40 degrees centigrade some days. But it seems to be doing really good for the chilies. So these are a Hungarian Black Wax, and I've had 2 pickings of about that many chilies this year so far. We have an eggplant or aubergine in the corner growing up a string. This is a giant gherkin plant, so they look like sort of cucumbers, but you wouldn't eat them as a cucumber. They are cucumbers that you pickle. So had lots and lots of them, probably 20 or so of them. A hanging basket with a few young peppers. And then that one there and that one there are, I think they're Carolina Reaper, I can't remember. So really hot chili. Watermelon growing wherever it sort of wants, and the same on the other side, so it's kind of in the middle of the polytunnel and it's growing out. This one is another very hot chili, I can't remember the name. We have another tomato Well, this is a small plum tomato. That one is a brown tomato, you can see, and that's been producing lots of nice tomatoes. And then we've got 4 of these very tall varieties, so these must be 8 feet tall, maybe 7 feet tall, I'd say. And yeah, they're producing lots of these sweet yellow tomatoes. And this one is supporting a watermelon which is growing up, and you can see that there's a little watermelon fruit which is starting to grow. Here we have our drying racks for the shallots and onions and garlic, which we harvested a few weeks ago. Harvested them a bit early this year because they seem to just finish early. Then we have hot chilies and sweet chilies, or sweet peppers. Lots of nice peppers on this one, and this one. This one's just flowering, it's not started producing chilies. And this one is a jalapeno, and that still hasn't started producing chilies. Nice big peppers. We have a cucumber plant over there which is growing well, quite a lot. I think it's actually 2 plants. And then basil. This is all basil plant, which is growing great. And another watermelon over there. So lots of watermelons. Bit of an experiment. I think we just had lots of watermelons left over, so I just planted them. I'd like to give you a little overview of the allotment apiary today. It's grown quite a bit since the start of the year when we started with 1 hive. We're now up to 12 hives, of which 10 are full size and 2 of them are nukes. So this colony here is a colony that I caught as a swarm in Sidmouth, and they're doing really well. They've filled out an entire Langstroth brood box, and they're starting to put stores up in this super here, but I don't think they'll put much in that super. We're kind of drawing towards the end of the year now, or end of the season, so that super will probably be coming off soon, and we'll just see what's in it when we do that. This colony is in a ware hive. It has a colony that I made as a split in the spring, and they're doing really well. They've filled the top box here with honey, then we've got sort of a brood chamber, and then they're building into the 3rd box down there, and the 4th box is just on there to give them a bit of space whilst the weather's quite warm. This 3rd colony is a swarm that I caught in Tipton St John, I believe, but then I caught another couple of swarms that were queenless, so I added those bees to this colony as well. So it's sort of a combination of colonies that I just threw in together, and they are doing really well. There's an excellent queen in there. She's filled an entire Langstroth deep box, and they've got a super on which they're just starting to draw out and put extra stores in, so they're doing good. And then the next colony is a swarm that I caught in Exmouth, and again no problems there. They've filled out a Langstroth deep box, and they're just starting up in the super. So all of these colonies were caught as swarms kind of end of May, beginning of June. So we're now a couple months on, and they've done really well so far. This colony was a midsummer split. I just took a frame of bees and a frame of eggs, and put them, a frame of bees and a frame of food, and put them in a 5-frame nuke. And I was going to let them make their own queen, but I had a few extra queens, so I just put a queen in there and let her kind of take over. So they're building up. They've got a little bit of syrup on them today, even though it's quite a nice sunny day, and I'm sure there's flowers that are open and nectar is out because we've had a bit of rain recently. It had been raining for a few days, so I had put some syrup on them whilst it was raining, just to give them a little bit of food to continue drawing their comb and building their brood nest. This colony is probably, well, it's my most expensive colony. It cost me £240 for the nucleus, and that was because it was an AI queen colony, and they are, I would say, no better or worse than my swarms that I've caught. They filled out the brood box and they're moving up into the super, but no further on than any of the swarms, so maybe AI queens have other benefits apart from just building up big brood nests. But yeah, it seems to be alright. This colony is probably what I'd call my original colony, although it doesn't have the original queen. This was the colony that overwintered, and I took the splits off to make that ware and that ware hive. So this is now into its 3rd box, so I don't think they'll have any trouble getting ready for winter. Queen's good. It was a self-made queen, as in one that the bees made themselves. I didn't have any input in making or mating or anything. That queen, they did that themselves. And on to this 8th colony. This is another ware. This was a split from that colony there in the spring, and they're now kind of nearly filled 2 boxes, so they're doing really well. Given them a little bit of syrup today, just again same reason as the nuke, to try and just help boost them a bit, give them a bit more energy to go out and forage in the late summer, because there's not as much forage about, but there is stuff for them. And this final one here is a tiny little split that I made not that long ago, I think in June or so, end of June, and they've got a abort buckfast queen in there, so they're doing good. A bit of syrup on them as well, but that one, those two, the full-size Langstroth and that ware, have no syrup on them. They're just out foraging. So that is the apiary on my allotment. My dad has an allotment a couple down from mine, and he's also got 3 hives, or 3 of my hives on it. We've got a top bar hive, another full-size Langstroth, and a Langstroth nuke on that one. So in total we've got 12 colonies, and hopefully we'll get them all through the winter, although that might be wishful thinking. All of them, apart from the 3 larger ware colonies, have got apivar strips in them. They've been in them for 2 weeks. I haven't seen any bad things from the bees' behaviour so far with the strips in. They're going to be in for a total of, well, 6 to 8 weeks is what it says on the packet. I guess we'll go for 7, and then we're in the middle there. So they'll be coming out about the 2nd week of September, and then after that it will be pretty much a case of feeding the bees to ensure their brood nests are well packed with stores for the winter, and then it will be a case of tucking them up for bed and having our fingers crossed and hoping that they make it through to next spring, where when you consider I only started beekeeping a year and a half ago, to go from 1 colony last year to potentially 12 colonies going into winter this year, I would say that's a good first step. My plan is to buy a piece of land, or rent a piece of land, that I can use for an apiary, and get into, probably the first few years will just be the production of bees, just so that I can build up my colonies and have an income, selling bees, probably just selling nucleus colonies, and maybe mated queens, depending on the piece of land that I get and how much money I have to invest in equipment after I've bought the land. And then do that for a few years, and then probably get into a bit more of the honey production side. Obviously invest in the equipment for extracting the honey, and then yeah, I don't know, we'll see. A lot can happen. This is my dad's allotment, and here are our 3 hives. So that's a 10 frame Langstroth, that is a 5 frame Langstroth nuke, and that is a top bar hive that I made this year, that I made out of scaffolding boards, and they're all really good colonies. That one has got a syrup feeder on it, that one has got a bit of candy pollen, and that one has nothing, because they're growing so big. They've nearly filled, I think, 12 frames, and at the rate they're going they'll probably fill up to 15 before winter, so they're doing really well. I'll just zoom in and show you the entrance activity at the top bar hive.